everybody, I'm Luna. Welcome back to Luna ơi! About 2 weeks ago, I made a video breaking down Vietnam's rapid response to Trump's tariffs. Since then, so much has happened that video now feels very outdated. So here's another update to let you know how Vietnam is responding to the constantly shifting chaos of Donald Trump's ill-advised trade war. To start with, let's cover some of the misinformation that's cropping up all over the place in the Western media about Vietnam. As we predicted in our last video, all the so-called Vietnam experts in Western media have already begun spreading doom and gloom predictions, claiming Vietnam's economy would collapse and that we've already fully capitulated to the USA. I hope that by the end of the video, you will see how this is not the case and how Vietnam is responding with a robust and carefully planned package of responses on multiple fronts, all with the chief goal of protecting Vietnamese workers from the worst possible outcomes of Trump's short-sighted and unpredictable policies. But before we get into the facts about what's going on, I want to address some of the chauvinist and demeaning language that we've seen in the comments and around the internet from so-called leftists who took the opportunity to look down on Vietnam and its rapid diplomatic response to Trump's initial tariff announcement. I have received a lot of comments from such leftists claiming that Vietnam's attempts to negotiate with the USA equals bending over and bowing down to Trump. To those of you who express this sentiment, I would just like to say...
Luna, I got this one. Here, tag.
Okay, yeah.
Let me speak now directly to my fellow Westerners, especially Americans sitting comfortably in the imperial core, beneficiaries of 75 years of U.S. brutality against Vietnam. Just where the hell do you get off looking down on Vietnam for negotiating the best deal possible with the USA? Your sneering insinuations that Vietnam is bowing down because they sent diplomats to the table? Pathetic. You're throwing a tantrum over aesthetics, more obsessed with Vietnamese owning Trump through tough guy posturing than with actual material outcomes for Vietnamese workers. You have no power, so you want them to be a proxy for you. I hate to break it to you, but the Vietnamese government's job isn't to satisfy your liberal performance politics that have gotten you nowhere. Their duty is to fight for the best possible conditions for the Vietnamese people. They have no obligation to crash the Vietnamese economy in some reckless, self-destructive stunt just to entertain your Twitter feed. Of course, Vietnam is pushing for lower tariffs while expanding into global markets. That's not weakness. That's strategy. That's real leadership, not the performative garbage you mistake for resistance. Oh, but China stood up to Trump harder. Yeah, and Vietnam isn't China. Vietnam and China do not have the same population size, the same economic weight, the same history, the same material conditions. If you demand identical responses from both China and Vietnam, that's not solidarity, that's political illiteracy. And guess what? Vietnam's approach worked. They secured a 90-day reprieve. They only asked for 45. This brought them critical time for a smoother transition, and they're already locking down deals across the globe, as Luna will explain throughout the rest of this video. And they got all of this done while you were wandering around the internet crying uselessly about optics. If you think owning Trump matters more than protecting Vietnamese workers, then congratulations, you've exposed yourself. You don't care about material struggle, you care about looking radical while workers pay the price. Grow up. Politics isn't about cosplaying resistance, it's about winning. And Vietnam is playing to win. Tag.
Yeah. So, as EJ mentioned, Vietnam was indeed among 75 countries granted a 90-day delay to negotiate with the US. Talks are ongoing and nothing's finalized yet. One thing that Vietnamese leadership has made clear is that no negotiations are going to be made that don't support the strategic and economic plans which the government already had in place. But Vietnam is not putting all its eggs in one basket. While talks with the Trump administration continue, our leaders have been working overtime, securing deals with other nations. So here's the timeline. On April 7th, less than a week after Trump's initial tariff announcement, Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister met with the UAE's Economy Minister. 3 days later, Spain's Prime Minister arrived, aiming to upgrade ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Then, in a historic move, Vietnam sat down with Ethiopia's Prime Minister, their first meeting since 1976, to strengthen trade amid the US tariff chaos. On April 15, the EU hopped on a call with Vietnam, pushing to elevate relations to the same level of comprehensive strategic partnership that Vietnam shares with the USA and China. That's right, they came to us.
Yeah, so does that mean that the EU is bowing down to Vietnam? Would you say that the EU is bending over because they came to Vietnam asking
Okay,
to
down, boy,
negotiate a better
down.
deal, you fucking clowns?
No,
Why do I
go to the void dimension. Anyway, around the same time, the EU asked Vietnam to upgrade trade relations on April 14th. Xi Jinping made headlines with his visit to Vietnam. And Trump, well, he could not resist ranting about it.
I don't blame China. I don't blame Vietnam. I see their meeting today. Is that wonderful? That's a lovely meeting. The meeting, like trying to figure out how do we screw the United States of America?
Trust me, Trump hates this Vietnam-China alliance. It's eating him up. But hey, he started this game. Now he's mad that the world won't fold. Xi Jinping urged Vietnam to boost high-quality agricultural exports to China, to otherwise tap into China's markets, and to showcase our products globally. The outcome? 45 new agreements cementing Vietnam-China ties. China and Vietnam issued a joint statement in which both countries proclaimed it is necessary to firmly support each other in maintaining strategic autonomy and autonomously choosing a development path suitable to the situation of their countries. The statement also declared that the two sides reaffirmed the need to firmly support each other on the path to socialism in accordance with each country's situation. Anyway, the rapid progress being made right now in international relations between Vietnam and many other nations of the world should all be more than enough evidence that Vietnam, along with the rest of the world, is moving forward full steam ahead without the US. Let's be real, this trade war hurts everyone thanks to the US dollar's grip. But ironically, it might backfire spectacularly. The US has stifled global growth for decades through its unfair diplomatic and trade practices. And now, as we say in Vietnam, lấy đá đập chân mình. They're hitting their own feet with a stone. Trump thought he could bully the whole world into submission. Instead, he's accelerating the decline of US dominance. The world's learning to cooperate without the US, which, ironically, is the last thing Trump wants. He's just not good at this. It's undeniable that Trump's tariffs will cause pain, supply chains will wobble, economies will sting. But short-term pain, I believe, will lead to long-term gain. And once the world adapts, we will thrive with no more US chokehold. Who's really suffering through all this? Americans, and hilariously, US corporations. Here in Vietnam, life so far is going on as normal. Prices are stable. Gas is at a 5-year low. In fact, Vietnam just lowered gas prices across the country for the second time in a row. I should really do a video about our gas price stabilization because yes, it's true, gas prices are exactly the same all across the nation and set by the government. What are gas prices like where you are? I would love to hear about it, so let me know in the comments. Anyway, while things are going fine right now in Vietnam, the US domestic market is facing panic buying, shortages, and nationwide protests. The Chinese move to block Chinese investment in US firms has hit American corporations hard. And Trump responded by slapping 245 tariffs on Chinese goods. What a joke! Any considered knows that just a 50% tariff is enough to virtually kill all trade. 245% is pure threat for Trump's base. And China's Minister of Foreign Affairs just said it will not pay any more attention to Trump's tariff number game. Luna here again. I was just finishing editing this video when I saw the news that 2 hours ago, Donald Trump announced that he would substantially lower his tariffs on China. I swear, making videos about politics in 2025 is very challenging, since Trump's administration drastically changes direction and creates chaos every single day. And maybe this will help you understand a bit more about the position Vietnam is in right now. We are rational people trying to carefully select the best path forward in a world that is dominated by an aggressive bully of a nation that is led by a completely unstable and irrational man. I think it's safe to say that the vast majority of Vietnamese people, including our leaders, know that Trump's administration can't be trusted and that the USA does not seem like a safe bet as a trading partner or ally. But detangling ourselves so long as the USA wields so much power is going to be very challenging. This is why I hope that we, from all other nations of the world, can respect one another and understand that it is in our best interest to build relationships founded in mutual benefit. Politics is not a zero-sum game. And when someone like Donald Trump tries to act like there has to be a winner and a loser in every negotiation, it only leads to chaos and suffering for the workers of the world. We have another famous saying in Vietnamese, chó cứ sủa và đoàn người cứ đi. The dogs keep barking and the people keep going. Things are changing every hour, especially since the USA is totally incompetent and horrible at diplomacy and policy making. So stay tuned, I will keep you updated. To US viewers, I am very sorry. Whether you love or hate Trump, this will hurt you. Your people will have to learn this truth the hard way. American exceptionalism is false consciousness. The US is not untouchable, and this war will backfire hard, and that backfiring will hurt American workers. Donald Trump has done much of the world with his disastrous and self-destructive tariff gambit. And I know that a lot of you are worried right now, but I believe you should have a hope. The smaller and weaker nations of the world are starting to band together like never before. And I believe that in time you will see that Vietnam will rise to become a leader and an example for the rest of the world to follow in the new world that is emerging. But don't take my word for it. Listen to the words of EU Ambassador to Vietnam, Julien Guerrier, explaining why the European Union wants to upgrade relations with Vietnam to the level of comprehensive strategic partnership.
This is an opportunity to diversify our trading partners and to focus on working with those who come to Vietnam, invest in Vietnam, and are ready to share the benefits and risks for our mutual prosperity. This is, in fact, what we are doing in the European Union. We want to support Vietnam's development and ensure the stability of the multilateral trading system. There is a silver lining to every dark cloud. For Europe, this could be a golden opportunity to forge new ties with the East. No country can trade alone, not even the US. The world needs a multilateral trading system that ensures predictability and fairness. We want to work with Vietnam and others to uphold that system. That's how we win, together.
In a conference with government leaders held on April 7th, our Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính said, while the US stands as Vietnam's most important export market, it is by no means the only one. Several other key markets also play a crucial role. In response to the U.S. new tariff policy, the Prime Minister underlined the need to remain calm and steadfast in pursuing the foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, multilateralization, and diversification of relations, and being a good friend and a reliable partner of all countries, and to build an independent, self-reliant, and proactive economy that actively engages in international economic integration in a deep, substantive, and effective manner. Chairman of the European Chamber of Commerce of Vietnam, Bruno Jasper, echoed this sentiment, stating,
It doesn't mean the world stops turning if access to the US market becomes harder.
I would like to close by explaining what I see as a major cause of confusion in the West over Vietnam's action during this time for international economic crisis. And that is a difference in worldview. In Vietnam, we study dialectical materialist philosophy from the time we are in grade school. This means we look at the world in materialist terms and we prioritize material outcomes. This contrasts heavily with the idealist worldview of Western liberals, who are much more concerned with things like optics and rhetoric and image. I will be the first to admit that Vietnam's actions in this crisis are not flashy. They aren't cool. They may even seem cowardly to a lot of you, as if we are running away from a fight with Trump. Let me tell you two stories about Vietnam's history, and perhaps you will understand our mindset better and understand why we have taken the course we have so far in this trade war. First, let me tell you about an ancient war we had when Mongolians invaded Vietnam in the 13th century. The Mongolians planned to attack our capital in what is now Hanoi. But when the Mongolians arrived in our capital, there was nobody there. The Vietnamese took all their food and everything of value and immediately fled to a place called Thanh Hoa in the central. The people hid in caves there and waited until the Mongolian army ran out of food and left to the rural area to steal food. We Vietnamese waited until the Mongolians were hungry and exhausted and spread out in the countryside to counterattack. This is how Vietnamese become one of the only countries in the world to defeat the mighty Mongolians and repel their invasion. Now, let me tell you another story, this time about Ho Chi Minh. During the late 1930s, Uncle Ho was operating out of China, which was being invaded by fascist Japan. It was only a matter of time before the Japanese Imperial Army would come to threaten Vietnam. As such, Ho Chi Minh wrote a letter to the Indo-Chinese Communist Party outlining recommendations, strategies, and goals pertaining to the looming threat of Japanese invasion. At that time, France had not yet been invaded by Germany. But Ho Chi Minh was very aware of the threat of fascism in Europe. He realized that rising up in revolutionary civil war against the French colonial administration would give fascist Japan an opportunity to quickly conquer all of Indochina, which is why he made the following recommendations in a letter to the Communist Party of Indochina in 1939. Our party should not strive for demands which are too high, such as total independence or establishing a House of Representatives. If we do that, we will fall into the trap of fascist Japan. For now, we should only ask for democracy, freedom to organize, freedom to hold meetings, freedom of speech, and for the release of political prisoners. We should also fight for the party to be organized and to operate legally. If a Western liberal had read this order written by Ho Chi Minh in 1939, I know exactly what they would say. Oh, look at Vietnam bowing down and bending over to the French. Look at how weak the Vietnamese are. This is because Western liberals do not understand how development works. They don't understand how transitions work. And they don't have a grasp of how to use strategy to develop a plan in accordance with material conditions. By the end of World War II, Ho Chi Minh had developed the party and its guerrilla fighters to such a high degree that Vietnam was able to successfully declare independence from France in 1946. And the rest, as I say, is a history. Vietnamese are very patient and pragmatic people. We will wait years, even decades, for the proper conditions to develop and for our plans to come to fruition. We are not in a hurry to score hollow victories. And we certainly don't care how we look to the eyes of Western liberals who are going to look down on us no matter what we do. Our unwavering goal is to secure peace and prosperity for Vietnamese people, and we will use all means possible to secure that goal. In hard times, we will seek any allies that want to share the same goal with us, but we never put our faith in others' hands. So with or without your help and support, we will achieve our goals no matter how long it's gonna take. Time is on our side. And in the long run, you will see that Vietnam is not capitulating to Trump. We are just making for a smooth transition to the next stage of development. Vietnam and the world will adapt. And honestly, watching the empire that once bombed us back to the Stone Age now implode is a little satisfying. But I don't want to see my fellow workers in America suffer through it. I hope you can resist and struggle and build your own revolution in time. Western communists, you have my full support. And if you would like to learn more about communist philosophy from a Vietnamese perspective, I hope you will check out the Vietnamese curriculum on Marxist philosophy that I translated. The ebook is free and available at banyanhouse.org. We are close to finishing part 2 on historical materialism, and I will do my best to keep you updated on everything that's happening here in Vietnam. But for today, that's all. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye!